Hello, everyone. Today we have the lovely Anna with us. Please go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us when did you get started with diabetes?
Wow, that was the quickest introduction I've ever been in on, but cool. Hi, I'm Hanna Diabetes. I am a type 1 diabetic since 1985, which is 34 years now. And it's been a rocky road, or it was a rocky road for most of my childhood and upbringing. Really, I'm sure most type 1s can relate to that when you get the terrible advice that you do get as a newly diagnosed diabetic, and you just keep doing it because A, you get brainwashed into doing it, and B, you don't know that there's actually an alternative, right?
That's right. And well, how old were you when you were diagnosed?
Two,
Oh, wow. So you're
just a
really
tiny
young.
little wee thing.
And what did they tell you when you were diagnosed?
Well, it was unfortunately very similar to the dietary advice that newly diagnosed diabetics get today, which is, of course, okay, it's changing now, but up until very recently, this was very stringent. So up to 60% of carbs with every meal, and if you have low-fat milk as a drink to your meal, you get bonus points, and if you then also have a fruit for dessert, you are killing it. Well, you're actually killing yourself, but that's another issue.
Sheesh. So basically the typical low-fat, high-carb diet, essentially.
Yes.
And
Definitely. And that's of course because I was so small, I had no idea what was going on or how to, well, I didn't understand anything. And so my parents, of course, took 100% of my care on themselves from that moment on. And of course, they just wanted the best for me. So they followed the low fat, high carb advice, of course. And I kept doing it as well when I started taking care of myself a little bit later on. And I kept doing that for 26 years, the first 26 years of this lovely, lovely type 1 roller coaster story. I attribute to the low fat, high carb way of eating.
and how'd that go for you?
Not great, man. Like, not great. No, I mean, it was actually really, really terrible. And at times when I was a teenager, I actually even just gave up caring for myself because it didn't matter what I did anyway. It was terrible either way. Like, I tried all the different insulins, I tried all the different carbs, I tried all the different sort of supplements and other medications and all this stuff, and it just ended up being freaking terrible. It was up and down the whole time, the classical roller coaster. I was in and out of hospital so many times. I don't care to remember how many times, either because I collapsed on the street because of a terrible hypo, or because I was in DKA, because of course my body wasn't getting enough insulin to then meet the terrible high carb demands. And so I gave up. I was like, well, it doesn't matter what I do anyway, so I might as well give up. But then, slowly but surely, after you've been a careless, reckless teenager, you start thinking about your future. And then I got that last bit of fighting spirit, so to say, and started slowly but surely finding my way. But, it took me that was still about 4 years before I even read about low carb. So those 4 years were terrible as well, but in a different way. Then I was really still trying to find the right way, but not succeeding because, again, I was following the wrong manual for me. And yeah, it was absolutely terrible. And then slowly but surely, I started figuring out what I really wanted to do with my life. And I thought, hey, nutrition, I know a lot about that because I've had, at that point, 26 years of experience with it. Little did I know, my teacher for this education was is still very much into the paleo sort of clean eating way of life, which is super cool. And so we were talking about, insulin and carbs and how they work in the body and how the body processes them and everything. And he sort of pointed me out in front of the whole class. And he's like, well, Hanna, you don't even make insulin. So maybe you should think twice about what you put in your mouth. And that was really my wake up call. I'm like, holy, all the bad words in the world. what is this? Could it be this simple? Could it be this easy that I've just had the wrong manual for the whole diabetic career that I've already done at the age of, 28 or whatever? And it was. So the same day I actually started going low carb. I had by that point started reading Dr. Bernstein's book, which is of course the diabetic Bible. Come on. But I just started, removing gluten and doing it very, very much step by step because I was on my own, and clearly I didn't have any help from my doctor or nurses or healthcare providers. Surprise. And so I really started step by step, and I noticed straight away, of course, that my blood sugars got better. It was easier. It was smoother. It was like, finding, I don't know, Neverland or something. It was fantastic. What a feeling.
That's amazing. That's very lucky of you to end up with a nutritionist that actually embraces paleo. That's not very common here in the States, that's for sure. Not very
No, and it
common at
wasn't very
all.
common 8 years ago either. So I was lucky.
Thank God for some of these people, right?
Yeah.
Um, so so you were saying as a teenager and so on and so forth, you're just up and down all the time, constant roller coaster blood sugars, and you end up giving up. And I can relate to that. That same thing happened to me.
Yeah.
Did you, how high was your A1C back then? Back in those darker years, you could say.
Is it enough if I say double digits?
Yeah, well, we can just go with that because that's pretty. Anything in the double
It was
digits is
the
pretty bad.
it was the double digit hellhole, really.
Whew.
And I just couldn't get down.
Do you
I
notice
just
any
didn't.
issues like outside of just your blood sugar management, like
Well,
mental
no,
health,
just the sort of
complications,
insecurity of never knowing,
never
sort of.
knowing?
I've actually found out afterwards through my endocrinologist that I was actually starting to develop kidney disease, like proteinuria, just starting to leak proteins. But that has completely gone away, actually, which is quite interesting.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you got pretty lucky. No severe complications or anything like that.
Knock on wood.
Thank God. Thank God. I'm great to hear that, and great to see you discover low carb when you did. Um,
Yeah.
so
It, it
take
was
it take
very lucky because at that point I wasn't quite sure I was gonna see my 30th birthday because my body was just so tired. It was just so run down by all the high blood sugars, all the low blood sugars, all the insecurity, all the anxiety, all of this stuff that very many people with diabetes live with. And they don't quite know that they don't have to.
Yeah, they think, I mean, they're doing it the way the doctor said, and if that's not working, it's their fault. And
Exactly.
that happened to me a lot. Like the doctor would be like, "Oh, Justin, why aren't you checking your blood sugars enough? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that?" And I'm like, "Listen, man, I'm a kid. I'm doing the best I can."
Yeah.
And they make you feel like it's your fault and that you're just failing. You know,
Yeah. Just lazy and
yeah,
non-compliant. What a terrible word.
non-compliant. People still call me that today, actually, but in a different
Yeah, but now it's a
way.
compliment.
So, so tell us, you discovered low carb, what was it 9 years ago, 8 years ago?
8 years ago, 2011. Yeah.
So you're a veteran, huh?
Well, in comparison to many others, yes. But I still have a lot to learn. I by no means know exactly the perfect boluses for certain things. It's a lot of still trial and error, but more times than not, it actually goes the right way. So yay.
So take us on that journey. Your paleo nutritionist finally woke you up to it. You got to Dr. Bernstein. What happened from there?
Well, it was really a step-by-step mission for myself, and I got so motivated straight away. But just removing gluten stuff from my diet, so that to see how well my blood sugars were doing and how much better and how much easier they were. So that sort of became my milestone, sort of like, oh, how much better can I do it? How much easier can I make it for myself before or until I reach to some sort of normal glycemic levels. So then I removed all the other grains, the non-glutinous ones, and then I removed root vegetables. And then until today, where I'm basically all I eat is meat yay, and vegetables and a bit of fat. Like, it's not really. I basically followed the proverbial breadcrumbs, or well, pork rinds in our case, but from sort of one mini win to another until that sort of started amounting up to a bigger win, and then, oh shoot, I'm already, normal glycemic, and then now I've gone from that double-digit hellhole until 5.0 of A1C. So I'm super, super happy and proud, and I really feel like Dr. B and company really saved my life.
Your A1C is 5.0 now?
Yes, sir.
Amazing, amazing. Even I still struggle getting it that low. Great to see that you're able to get it there.
But it also took like 8 years of figuring stuff out. And
The
I'm
thing
not
is,
done yet by any means.
the
There's
thing,
still a lot that I have to do. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. The thing with low carb is that it's easy to most people to get started, but for us in particular, it's a big puzzle.
Yeah.
Always changing variables, always new stuff to figure out. Even with Dr. B's guidance, it's still a never-ending journey, the way I see it. And great to see that your time has gotten you here. Now you spend a lot of your time trying to educate other diabetics, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so after I found this fantastic pathway of another way of dealing with it apart from the doctor's way, I decided that more people need to know about this. So I went on a rampage, basically, trying to educate every single diabetic in the world. No, but I actually started coaching type 1 diabetics one-on-one on how to sort of get on with a low carb lifestyle, and how to start it, and how to make it sustainable, and how to make it maintainable, because that's also, of course, if you go in there with the mindset of, yes, I can do this for short term, no, you have to really go in there and like, okay, this is my life now, this is what I do. And a lot of people do have issues with that mindset problem, if we call it that. So that's what I did, and then it has morphed more into sort of public speaking and workshops idea that I offer nowadays to try to motivate and inspire people with diabetes to be a little bit healthier, and first and foremost, more comfortable in their own care with various lifestyle measurements, including, of course, low carb, high protein, all of this stuff, as per Dr. B, but also things like de-stress and hydration and supplements, all of these things that are so important as well, but maybe don't get talked about as much.
Yeah, yeah. Got taking a more holistic approach, right?
Yeah. Because
So
unfortunately, life is still a little bit more than, counting how many grams of protein you're putting in your mouth.
exactly, exactly. I mean, I'll say stuff like this the other day, low carb, it's good for a lot of things, but it's not going to cure all your mental woes if you're still not getting enough sleep, if you're still in bad habits, in a bad environment. There's a lot you got to change. You got to give it your all.
Yeah.
But low carb certainly is a good start, especially for us.
Yeah, it's definitely the key. It has been the key for me, the big key, and then all the other small keys and locks that I've turned as well. But seriously, low carb is by far the most effective one-step thing that I've done.
So, you mentioned before about the anxiety you had as a teenager, the insecurity, um, the mental stress you had there. How are you feeling mentally now that you've actually gotten your diabetes under control?
It's a whole world of difference. It is. I'm calm. I can do things like almost almost to a degree of forgetting about the fact that I even have diabetes, which I was unheard of before, just because I don't have to worry as much, because I know, okay, well, it might not be the perfect 4.6 or 83 at all times, but it is going to be in the vicinity somewhere around there. And, I've been able to start new exercise routines, for example, which I wouldn't have dared to do before, go traveling really far, which I love. Like, that's a true passion of mine, to travel and see the world. But I wouldn't have done it before because my diabetes management would have stopped me in that. So it's been such a freedom, both mentally but also physically, to be able to do different things that I just didn't think were possible for me.
So you're sort of chained down by the limits diabetes imposed on you. And I mean,
Yeah,
people would say that limiting what you eat is a big limit, but it also opens yourself up to those new opportunities that you couldn't do before, like the traveling and everything else, because you're confident in yourself and your ability to manage it, you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, yes, people think it's a huge like sacrifice to eat limited amounts of food, but for me, and seeing what it does with to my blood sugars, it's freedom. Like eating real food and deliciously nutritious, awesome, uh, real food is really means freedom to me, because that means that I can do these other things that are much more freeing than having, bread and pasta. Like, what's the freedom in that? That's nothing. That's the way I see it.
Exactly, exactly. And I agree 100% with that. Now, let's go back to that coaching because I bet doing that kind of coaching, actually helping other diabetics, has some own insights in it. What are some of you mentioned the problems of people not thinking long term with it, but what are some other issues people typically have when you're trying to coach them through getting started on the Dr. Bernstein approach?
Well, number one question is, what do I eat? Because first, there's the no list of foods, and then, what is left? That's everything that I eat. And so that is a huge thing, getting people on the right track that, yes, it's okay to eat meat, it's okay to eat bacon, it's not going to kill you. Eat eggs, don't limit them, all of this stuff. It's really, really good for you. So that is definitely number one. Number two is, of course, insulin. How to do with that. I'm not a medical professional, so I'm not allowed to give medical advice at all, but that is a question that comes up a lot. So basically, just how much to reduce, and I'm not allowed to say anything, so I'm kind of caught in a pickle there. And then number three is definitely, that I already mentioned, as the mindset thing, that people are just going in it with, okay, I'll try it for a while, sort of that version, instead of seeing the results and being motivated by the results, and then seeing it, okay, well, if this works for this amount of time, then how is it going to work for the rest of my life? That's exciting. It's not limiting, it's exciting.
Exactly, exactly. And I mean, that's one reason I do these interviews so people can really see the big benefit. Because you can tell someone till the sky goes red, hey, uh, this works. You can tell them it works. You can do
Yeah.
that, but until you actually see the people succeeding on and see the difference it makes, a
Yeah.
lot of people wouldn't be convinced, and that's fine. Stories are good for that. Speaking of which, I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you, what would you say is the biggest change from then, the 26 years of high carb, to now, the 9 years of low carb? What would you say the biggest difference is, the biggest change for you is?
Apart from smoother, fantastic, normal glycemic blood sugars, it's probably my energy.
Your
Like, that
energy.
is, yeah, like energy levels, like how much I can actually do, and I don't feel tired during the day, and I don't feel like napping unless I'm jet lagged, but that's another thing. But it's just the energy. And I think I'm actually, another thing is actually that I'm eating a lot more varied now than I did with high carbs. So before, I used to think, oh, I'm having pasta tonight, what should I have with the pasta? Now it's more like, oh, I'm having steak tonight, what should I have with that? Should I make it a surf and turf? Should I have some spinach, some asparagus maybe? Like, that becomes the smaller part of the meal, rather than the pasta being the, like, be all and end all of my meal, and then I have, some little sauce on top of it. Now I think the other way around. So I think that is also a huge thing that also, of course, makes me more nutritiously and more nutritionally dense as well.
I definitely think that meat deserves being the staple in people's diets rather than the
It
carbs and the
does.
pasta and all that. I mean, even leafy vegetables, like you have some leafy vegetables, man, but meat's where it's at. That's like the
Yeah.
real, that's why they say the meat of the matter, the most important part. I hope people can get back to that.
Yeah,
But
I think they will eventually. But yeah, we have some strong forces working the other way right now, so we'll see how long it takes. But I'm sure it
slowly
will get
but
there.
surely, I think people are making the right choices, and learn the truth with hopefully with the help of videos like this and with the work you're doing with the personal coaching and all of that.
Yeah, no, I really hope, and I mean, I'm not in this to convince every single type 1 diabetic that low carb is the way to do it, and that's the only way to do it. I mean, hey, whatever works for you as an individual, do it. Go for it. As long as you can achieve normal, healthy, happy blood sugars, take it out of the park. I don't care what you do to get there. But what my mission is to have every type 1 diabetic knowing that low carb is also an option. You don't have to be vegan. You don't have to be following the old ADA rules. You don't have to follow a standard American diet in order to be healthy. This is also a way of trying.
Exactly. I mean, just doctors giving people the option would be a huge deal to
Yeah,
me. Um, I think we're slowly getting there. I mean, even the ADA started to admit, okay, yeah, this is a
exactly.
thing. It's not bad, works, but they're still dragging their feet on actually starting to recommend it, which is what I think they should do, personally.
Yeah. And it will come. That I'm sure of. That I'm absolutely 100% sure of, that it will come. But also, I see it from their perspective and flip flopping from, it's really bad to, hey, this is a actual viable thing to do. That's going to take some time, I think.
Did you find it difficult to get started doing the low carb approach? Or was it easy for you?
It was easy because I was on that verge of, I'll try anything. Anything that will help me right now is worth trying. And because I was on that sort of desperate ledge, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm giving it my all. I'm doing it. This is what I'm doing now. And let's see what happens. And then I started following the pork rinds.
I like that. I like that turn of phrase, pork rinds rather than breadcrumbs.
Well, they're yummy.
So, did you ever have to coach any parents with type 1 diabetic children, or do you like with exclusively with adults?
I have talked to a good few parents with diabetic kids, and it's always so, it's always so touching to see how much they care about their children and how well they want their children to be. But I also realize the limitations there when you are a parent, especially for maybe a little bit older children, where they have sort of their own will. So that's always an added challenge, absolutely. But I do wish that my parents would have known when I was diagnosed about Dr. B and the sort of opposite advice that then they got, because I can't even imagine how much pain, suffering, anxiety, insecurity it would have saved all of us, my whole family, because it's not just the person who's diagnosed who's affected by this, right? It's the whole family. So I wish the information would have been out there when I was diagnosed, and that's why I'm super happy to also talk to parents of diabetic kids.
Exactly. Is there anything what was the one biggest piece of advice you'd give to any diabetics or any parents of type 1 diabetics watching this right now?
Oh, it's one of my favorite quotes actually, and that is, everything is figure outable. Even if you are eating low carb and not achieving the great results that you see everyone else on the interwebs achieving, it's not your fault. It's fine. It does take a while, to get there. And you just have to keep tweaking and turning and sort of changing a little bit at a time so that you can keep track on what's working and not. But really, the main point is to find out what works for you or for your child or whoever is affected by diabetes, to have healing, healthy, happy blood sugars.
That's amazing. And I agree 100%. You know, it's not everyone is able to get the perfect 4.8 that some of the people in our groups get, and that's fine. Nobody's perfect. Hell, I'm not perfect even. But just progressing, getting better and better, experimenting, tweaking, figuring it out, that's what it's all about. It's
Yeah.
a journey. You're not going to get to the destination right from the get-go.
No, and also like continuous perfection is such a trap. Thinking that you will continuously improve the whole time and have just because you've had a flatline CGM curve a couple of days in a row doesn't mean that the next day is going to be like that at all, because success always goes, like this and it turns around on itself and up and down and then a little up and then a little down. It's not a linear thing. So continuous perfection is also maybe as damaging as many other things.
I like that. I like that. Now, I guess we'll end it with giving the information I bet everyone here is waiting for. Anyone that would like to get your services for coaching, let's do that plug. Where can they find you at, Hannah?
They can find me on my website, hannaboetius.com, or on any social media, well, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at least. And there I'm cheekily called Hanna Diabetes Expert.
Hanna Diabetes Expert. I love that. I think that about wraps it up. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, thank you so much for having me. This has been a fantastic, fantastic time to spend time talking to you.
All right. I'll be sure to link any of Hannah's stuff below. If you like to get coaching for, if you like to learn more about her experience, you feel free to message her. I'll link all of that below. Hannah, but with this, thank you so much for your time today. And what was the name of that again? Hanna Diabetes Expert?
Yes.
All right. Look up Hanna Diabetes Expert. Thank you again so much for your time today. It was a blast having you on. Love what you had to say. This is how Hannah tamed her type 1.